What's up, Marsh Pod? Thanks for tuning in. Great episode ahead. We are less than 12 hours away from the start of the recruiting period. Exciting time. The future of SimWorld Hoops is really going to be decided, I think, within the next 2 months. What teams and what coaches do during this recruiting period is really going to make or break the season for a lot of organizations. So I want to get to that, and I want to talk about who, in my opinion, looking at the recruiting rankings, how this class stacks up, who are the guys to keep an eye on as we start. But first, I want to talk about breaking news that just came a couple hours ago that actually broke on Twitter, and that's revolving around Bad Boys basketball. And the reason that I want to bring this up is because I think it has major implications on recruiting. So the news is that during a pickup game with members of Bad Boy Basketball, Lorenzo Phenom and Owen Pride, a newcomer, 16-year-old, to the organization, basically came to blows after a hard foul by Pride on Phenom. Phenom, of course, one of the premier players in SimWorld Hoops coming into his final year in high school. He's the face of Bad Boys basketball as we get ready to start this season. There is certainly good players. Bo Pagnotti Jr. is no slouch on that group. Cash Ruffin is a good option, but Lorenzo Phenom's the option for Bad Boys, and this is massive, and here's why this is massive. We are about to embark, as we've already talked about, in less than 12 hours on the start of recruiting, and I think the first thing that teams come to mind is, oh, well, we've got our organization figured out. If we've got this, and that, these are the places that we're trying to fill in. None of these teams, none of these players are tied together. This isn't the NBA. There's no contracts been signed. This isn't even college basketball where a letter of intent has been established. This is high school basketball akin to AAU hoops. Players play on teams that they do so out of their own choosing. No player is obligated to return to the organization that they are with currently. And as it's reported, where one member of the organization felt that the team is quote-unquote at an impasse, this could not be coming at a worst possible time for Bad Boys basketball. Lorenzo Phenom should be recruited by every single team that has a head coach in SimWorld Hoops, including head coach Munch Williams and Bad Boys basketball. You need to recruit Lorenzo Phenom to return to your organization. And now you are at an impasse, meaning this team has the choice. They can choose between one big of Owen Pride or another big of Lorenzo Phenom. That is the option at hand. And I think this will be a massive lift for Munch Williams because he's going to have to now make a decision. Do you back the guy that's been there? The guy that has proven he can be one of the best players in SimWorld Hoops? Or do you roll the dice on a guy like Owen Pride? Now, certainly there's not a reason that they can't bring back two players. I don't think this is directly similar to everything that went on with Golden State earlier where it felt like it was kind of one or the other. But I do think it's similar where I think they can coexist after the fact. But it's going to take massive work from head coach Munch Williams to get this team back to the place that it needs to be. Because there's no doubt about it. Phenom and Bo Pagnotti Jr. make up one of the best big guard combos in college hoops, or excuse me, in SimWorld Hoops, because Phenom is a phenomenal shooter from the outside, and because Bo Pagnotti Jr. is such a great playmaker, they make for a really dynamic 1-2 punch for Bad Boys basketball. They're going to have to now take a step and say, who do we go after? Because now the complication just got, or excuse me, the equation just got much more complicated for Munch Williams. He cannot just turn around and say, okay, I got Phenom, I've got Bo Pagnotti, let's add in some additional pieces, of which there's plenty. He's now going to have to recruit, and that stands true for basically every single organization. Like, if you are the Bay Area Breakers, who don't have a head coach, Caden Shipp, every other team in SimWorld Hoops should be looking at Caden Shipp to say, how do we get him to our team? I mean, he's from Fresno. You think Showtime Basketball could convince him to make a trip? You think the Best Coast Ballers, who have guys from Monterey, Riverside, Bakersfield, throughout that western coast, Aaron Murray doesn't say, hey, You want to come play for a coach that's actually going to use you and know how to use you? These guys are not considered done, okay? And the Bad Boys Basketball organization, unfortunately, could be the poster child of that as we head into a recruiting period. So keep your eye out. I do not think that certainly there's going to be some surprises in recruiting, but I do not think that all of these guys that are returning, the Lace Darius Outlaws, the Montel Cages, to use Best Coast Basketball as an example, not every single guy is going to be guaranteed to come back. So for anybody that assumes they've got this team in position, this is not the NBA. This is much more akin to the NIL and the ability for movement that it created in college basketball. It's going to be true, I think, in SimWorld Hoops as well. Moving on to the updated, or to the new class, the 2023 recruiting rankings. I'm going to give you a top 7. The reason I'm going to give you top 7, this is where I think the class kind of breaks down, okay? And I think it's where we've seen this is the high-end talent, and at least at this point, this is kind of the lower-end talent. Top 3, DJ Wagner, Bronny James, Mikey Williams. I'm not convinced Bronny James is coming to SimWorld Hoops, despite all the conversation that LeBron James is now interested in the league. Unless there's a lot of money changing hands to the James family, I don't believe that that's going to necessarily be. And I actually saw a report earlier today, I think it was on ESPN, where college coaches are actually feeling that same kind of hesitancy. It's very messy trying to get involved with recruiting Bronny James. He's a senior. Is he really going to come to your organization? Is he really going to go to college? What's the path that Bronny James takes? With obviously LeBron wanting him to be having the opportunity to play with his son. I'm not sold that Bronny James is actually coming to SimWorld Hoops, though that can certainly change. But follow the money. Insert Brian Windhorst meme. What's really going on here? DJ Wagner and Mike Williams, that rounds out our top 3. I think those are the top guys. I'm not convinced Bronny James deserves to be in the top 3, but I'm gonna trust our rankings for right now. But I just put that caveat. I'm not super convinced he's really a top 3 guy. Moving ahead, number 4, Jafet Towns. Number 5, Aaron Lovejoy. Number 6, Kashawn Western. And number 7, Kamarian Goodyear. That is the tier 1 guys, I think, in this class. Those are the guys that are at the top of every team's wish list, because they are the guys that can be elite in 2 to 3 years, which means at this current juncture of their careers, they're going to be very dangerous. Jafet Towns is 16. I mean, he's got 2 years left in SimWorld. If he's not at the top of teams list, 6'6", 215, incredible perimeter shot creator, a great switch defender, I don't know if you're paying attention as a coach if you're not pursuing Towns. It's just as simple as that. He's got the type of CKC plus Gerald Carroll type of game. He can create for himself. He can create for others. He's going to take on a main guy. He's going to be able to switch from perimeter at 6'6". He can guard smaller guys, and he can also stretch up at 215 to be able to handle some of those bigger guys. I mean, you want to talk about like Lorenzo Phenom, just as an example of a type of guy he might have to deal with. Lorenzo Phenom's 6'10", 205. It's only 4 inches less, and he's got 10 pounds on him. Towns is going to be a problem. Aaron Lovejoy, similarly, he's a post shot creator and a post help defender. He reminds me a lot of Evan Mobley. 6'11", 197, physically hasn't built out his frame quite yet, but he's got the physical stature to be very, very dangerous. I don't know that there's going to be a big that's quite as mobile as he is, and he should be. Similarly, if you're a team that says, hey, look, we've got a guy like, let's say, Caden Shipp or Lace Darius Outlaw. I think Lace Darius Outlaw, as you look to Best Coast, you want to go Lace Darius Outlaw plus Lene Newman. You're going to start looking at a really dangerous team there for Aaron Murray. And again, I'm not reporting that. Lovejoy is from New York. He's from Utica. Gotham 5 should really be licking their lips if they let him get out of their region. But he should be a guy that is highly recruited here in this next phase. And again, speaking of that New York to California, not all these guys are going to be tied to their region, but I think we'd be naive to think that somebody is going to let their son travel on the weekends from Utica to California. It's possible. It's possible. It's just a lot of miles. It's a lot of travel. Next is Kashawn Western. He's a really unique player. He's a great perimeter shot defender. He's not quite as elite of a defender, but he's a really off-ball defender, really good off-ball defender. He's from North Dakota, 6'5", 175. He kind of falls into that Japhett Towns where you kind of feel like you might be able to move him up a position or two if you've kind of got a smaller roster that you want to go with. He's a strong 175, but he's not a guy that you're going to look at that's going to say, I'm going to take on the lead ball handler on defense, but he is a guy in the offensive side of the ball who's going to be very, very dangerous. He could be your point creator on the wing, or you can move him if you wanted to go an extra, a supersized lineup. You can move him to the 1 or the 2, put him next to a 6'3" guard, maybe a 6'6" wing. Now you start to have a really long, lengthy defense. And then the last name is Kamarian Goodyear, 6'4", 178 out of Pennsylvania. Similarly, he's a perimeter shot creator. He's going to get things going on the perimeter. He's going to be a guy that you turn the ball over to, and you're going to feel really good about your opportunities to score. Defensively, he's not a great switch defender, but he's a phenomenal, if not the best on-ball defender in this class. There are actually very few guys. The only other one that really comes to mind is Darian Kingy-Cross that possess the type of on-ball defensive abilities that Kamarian Goodyear has. He is an absolute problem. And he's going to be a guy that scouts should really be honing in on in that, hey, we might need a point guard. We might need a 2 guard next to a really good shooter. Trey Turner, for example, plus Kamarian Goodyear could make Southeast Select a really, really dangerous team. So those are the top 7. You got Wagner, you got James, got Mikey Williams. Those are 3 guys probably most known by coaches. But the next 4, Japhett Towns, Aaron Lovejoy, Kashawn Western, and Kamarian Goodyear, are dangerous pieces if you let them leave your region. All right, thank you again for tuning in. We will be back on Thursday. I'm actually not going to be breaking down the recruiting class because I think there's just going to be so many things coming ongoing. I want to give it a week before we really start diving into that. That being said, I do have an idea for the future of SimWorld that I think other organizations have created a blueprint that could be unique to follow. All right, we'll catch you then.